All right, let's get right into it. We're all talking to AI these days, right? But the real question is, are we any good at it? Today, we're diving into prompt engineering, which is really just the skill of talking to an AI so you get exactly what you want out of it.
And you know, this quote really hits on the fundamental shift we all need to make. When you're interacting with an AI, it's not just a casual chat. It's more like you're an architect. You are intentionally designing an input to build a very specific output. It's way less about talking and a whole lot more about building.
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we stop just, throwing words at a machine and hoping for the best, and instead move to a structured process that gives us reliable, high-quality results every single time?
So let's put a pin in it with a clear definition. Prompt engineering is both a creative art and a rigorous science. Think of it as crafting instructions with real precision, all to steer these incredibly powerful models exactly where we need them to go.
Okay, so let's start with the art side of things. These are the foundational techniques that, honestly, anyone can use to immediately level up their conversations with AI.
The secret weapon here? Specificity. A vague prompt like, summarize this, makes the AI guess what you want. But look at the difference when you define the format, 3 concise bullet points, and the goal, highlight its key arguments. All that ambiguity just vanishes, and you get a way more useful response.
This next technique is a game changer. It's often called the persona pattern. Instead of just asking for a block of information, you give the AI a role to play. By telling it to be a programming instructor, you're not just getting facts anymore, you're getting the right tone, the right vocabulary, and just the right level of detail for a beginner.
And here's another fantastic example of that. This prompt doesn't just ask for an opinion. It tells the AI to look at the world through a specific, critical lens. What this does is it forces a much more nuanced, analytical response. It's perfect for exploring counterarguments or, really stress testing an idea you have.
Now, for the really complex tasks, don't ask for the final answer all at once. You have to guide the AI's thinking. This is called chain of thought prompting. By breaking the problem down into logical steps like this, you're basically forcing the model to show its work. And that dramatically reduces errors and leads to a much more coherent final strategy. It just works.
So, now that we've got the art down, let's see how this all scales up, from crafting one great prompt to engineering an entire system. This is where we make that jump from art to science, and the focus becomes creating reliable, repeatable AI behavior.
And the difference is pretty stark. The art is all about getting that one lucky, perfect output. But the science, well, that's about building a system where you get consistent, high-quality outputs every single time. The whole process shifts from a guessing game to a true optimization problem.
So how do we actually do that? Well, it really comes down to 3 core engineering pillars. First, you version everything, the prompt, the model, even the code around it. Second, you trace every single output so you can go back and debug what happened and why. And third, you have to rigorously evaluate performance. Was the output good enough? A simple pass or fail. Now, one of the biggest scientific challenges is that these models can sometimes just make things up. We call it hallucinating. Retrieval Augmented Generation, or RAG for short, is an incredibly powerful solution. It basically lets the model pull in fresh, external information before it answers, grounding its response in current, verifiable facts.
And here's a look at how it actually works. You ask a question, the system then goes and searches a knowledge base. Could be internal company documents, could be the live web, for relevant information. It then stuffs that new info directly into the prompt before sending it off to the AI. The result? A much more accurate and up-to-date answer.
But, engineering for accuracy isn't the only challenge on the table. We also have to engineer for ethics, and that gets really tricky, especially when prompts start to touch on the complex and controversial edges of reality.
And this is such a critical question. How should an AI respond when it's asked about sensitive, or explicit, or ethically murky topics? Designing that response is a huge challenge for prompt engineers and, frankly, the AI companies themselves.
This case study is absolutely fascinating. When prompted about sex robot influencers, the older model, GPT 3.5, just flat out refused to answer. But the newer model, GPT 4, tried to give a more nuanced answer, providing some context without being explicit. It perfectly illustrates this tightrope that every AI company is walking. How do you stay helpful without crossing some serious ethical lines?
So where is this all going? Let's take a look ahead at the future of prompting as a skill, the new tools that are going to shape it, and what all this means for the job market.
We're seeing 3 major trends emerge. First is adaptive prompting, which is where the AI itself will actually help you write better prompts.
Then there's multimodal prompting, where you'll be using a mix of text, images, and even audio to guide the AI. And third, guardrail prompts, which are designed specifically to steer the AI towards safe and ethical outputs.
Now let's talk jobs. And this might actually surprise you. Right now, only about 0.3% of all job postings even mention generative AI skills. It's still a tiny, tiny fraction. But, and this is the whole story right here, that tiny fraction grew by a whopping 170% last year alone. So even though it's starting from a small base, the demand is absolutely exploding. So let's just cut through all the noise for a second. The hype was all about this brand new job title, prompt engineer. But the reality is that it's becoming a fundamental competency for countless existing roles, from marketers to developers to researchers. This isn't a fad, it's a foundational skill for anyone working in the age of AI. And just look at how fast this skill is evolving. I mean, just a couple of years ago, we were all just typing simple text prompts. Today, the state of the art is these complex techniques like chain of thought and RAG. By 2026, we'll likely be dealing with adaptive and multimodal systems as the norm. The pace of change here is just staggering.
Which leaves us with this final thought to chew on. As AI gets smarter and smarter, will we still need to be so careful about how we talk to it? Is prompt engineering a temporary job? Something we'll look back on as a quirky moment in tech history? Or is it a permanent, essential skill for anyone who wants to effectively collaborate with artificial intelligence? Honestly, the answer to that question is going to define how we work for decades to come.